Chosen ones, you have felt it, this strange stillness around your life, as though the universe has drawn a quiet circle around you. You have wondered why relationships slipped through your hands, why connections dissolved before they could fully take root, why you have been kept apart from what others so easily find. It is not because you are lacking, but because you are chosen. To carry what you carry, to walk the path carved for you, requires a solitude that shapes, molds, and forges. This silence was never punishment. It was preparation. You were separated so your spirit could be refined without interference, so your ears could learn to hear whispers others dismiss, so your eyes could open to what lies beneath the illusions of this world. While others were entangled in the noise of companionship, you were being sharpened by divine silence. Because leaders are not built in the crowd, they are built in the wilderness. Think of the prophets. Think of the kings. Think of those who carried destinies that touched generations. They were not raised in the warmth of constant company, but in the chill of solitude, where they learned to depend on something greater than themselves. And though the ache of being alone has burned within you, it has also left you unchained, unbound, free to receive without distraction the mantle placed on your shoulders. What you thought was rejection was preservation. What you thought was loneliness was a shield. What you thought was delay was actually acceleration of the unseen. The silence around you has been the whisper of destiny, preparing to speak louder than the crowd ever could. You have been guarded because what you carry cannot be compromised. And as the veil begins to lift, you will see why your path had to be so different, why your hands could not cling to what was never meant for you, why your heart had to be preserved for a mission greater than comfort. You were not kept single to be forgotten. You were kept single because you are meant to lead, not follow. There comes a moment when you begin to question why your path has been so different, why love seems to brush past you, why companionship appears to stay just out of reach, no matter how deeply you long for it. What you may not have realized is that solitude has been your greatest teacher, your hidden mentor. It has been in the empty spaces that your soul has been carved into the shape required for destiny. When you look around and see others walking hand in hand, building families, weaving stories together, it can feel as though you were overlooked. Yet in truth, you were being preserved. For those who are meant to lead cannot be tied too early, cannot be distracted by bonds that might divert them from the mission written in their very breath. The hidden reason behind your solitude is not rejection, nor is it abandonment, but refinement. The silence has been whispering to you, strengthening you in ways you did not even see. It is in the quiet nights when tears have stained your pillow that your spirit learned to call upon something greater. The loneliness you thought was your enemy has been your protector. It has taught you resilience. It has pushed you to discover depths within yourself that few ever touch. And it has lifted your eyes beyond the fleeting embrace of human affection towards something eternal. There is an unseen hand at work, guiding you away from what might have trapped you, closing doors you tried to open, breaking ties you thought were secure. Every absence was orchestrated for your preservation, for your preparation, and though at times it felt unbearable, though the silence echoed louder than words, it was the furnace in which your spirit was forged. You have been kept apart, not because you are unworthy of love, but because your love is too rare to be squandered. You are meant to walk in a depth of purpose that demands clarity, and solitude has given you that clarity. What feels like emptiness has actually been space created for the weight of your calling to rest fully upon you. When we look to the life of Yeshua, we see that before the miracles, before the crowds pressed upon him for healing, before the disciples followed him across dusty roads, there was isolation. The wilderness was not a detour, but a necessary preparation. Alone, with no one to lean on but the Spirit, he faced silence and temptation. It was in that hidden place that his strength was forged, his resolve made unshakable, his identity declared. The voice from heaven spoke not in the marketplace, but in the quiet of separation, affirming who he was before anyone else could see it. In many ways, your path mirrors his. You too have been led into seasons where the walls closed in and companionship seemed stripped away. What you thought was delay was a reflection of that same divine rhythm that prepared Yeshua for revelation. In solitude, he discovered communion with the Father, and in your solitude, you are being drawn into the same. It is in these unshared moments, these hidden nights, that your spirit is being sharpened, that your purpose is being whispered, that your leadership is being quietly written into your being. Isolation is rarely embraced by the human heart. It feels like exile, like punishment, like a cruel reminder of what is absent. Yet Yeshua showed that the wilderness was not exile but encounter. It was not emptiness, but fullness in disguise, a fullness that only revealed itself once the noise of others fell away. You too are walking that path. The loneliness that presses in is shaping your endurance, cleansing your vision, anchoring you in a truth that will not waver when the weight of destiny begins to rest on your shoulders. The hidden truth of your solitude is that it has never truly been empty. The same presence that walked with Yeshua through the wilderness has walked with you. Every unanswered prayer, every broken tie, every season where silence seemed endless, has been a preparation for the moment when your revelation breaks forth. A leader's life is never meant to be ordinary. From the moment destiny begins to shape itself around you, you are called to walk differently, to think differently, to see differently. Blending with the crowd may offer comfort for a season, but it dilutes the clarity of vision needed to guide others. Crowds move with impulses, shifting with the wind, but leaders are forged to stand firm, to walk against the tide when necessary, to hold a posture of strength even when misunderstood. This is why your life has not mirrored those around you. The paths others have walked easily were never meant for your feet, for your steps are designed to break ground where no one else dares to go. The inability to blend in has often felt like rejection. You may have asked yourself why you cannot simply fit into the same patterns, why the things that satisfy others leave you restless, why conversations that excite the crowd feel empty in your spirit. The truth is that the calling on your life has set you apart. Leaders cannot be molded by the noise of the many, for they must hear a voice deeper than the applause, stronger than the criticism, clearer than the shifting voices around them. That voice can only be heard in separation. Every attempt you have made to belong has been interrupted not by accident, but by design. Something within you refuses to let you settle, refuses to let you lose yourself in the patterns of the multitude. This is because your spirit has been aligned to a higher frequency, one that carries responsibility, one that demands vision, one that cannot afford compromise. You may not see it yet, But this distance you feel from the crowd is evidence of your leadership being prepared. It is never easy to walk apart, to feel as though your heart beats to a rhythm others cannot hear. Yet that rhythm is precisely what gives you authority when the time comes to lead. The very solitude you resist now will one day become the strength others depend on. There is a heaviness that comes with being chosen, a spiritual gravity that sets you apart even when you wish to blend in. It is not simply loneliness or rejection, but a sacred distinction placed upon your life. To be set apart is to walk a path that few understand, to carry a burden that cannot be easily explained, to feel the invisible hand steering you away from places you longed to remain. Yeshua knew this weight well, for though he was surrounded by many, he often withdrew into solitude, retreating into the hills, the gardens, the still places where the world could not touch him. Even in the midst of his closest companions, he carried a separation that no one could truly bridge. For destiny requires a solitude even in company. You, too, carry that separation. You have been pulled away from what looked promising, drawn out of relationships that appeared secure, lifted from environments where others could thrive. This has not been without purpose. The spiritual weight upon you demanded that your heart remain untangled, your focus unbroken, your spirit sensitive to the whispers of heaven. The set-apart life often feels like exile, but in truth, it is preservation. Yeshua's life revealed that being set apart is not rejection from people, but alignment with purpose. This weight manifests in the quiet ache of your spirit, in the sense that you are not free to choose as others do, in the realization that your path has already been written with precision. It is a calling that presses on your chest, urging you to rise when you want to rest, guiding you to listen when others are distracted, keeping you alert to things others dismiss. This is the cost of being marked by destiny, of carrying a mantle too rare to be diluted by the temporary attachments of this world. What feels like emptiness is in truth a sacred filling, an unseen strength being poured into you in silence. What feels like distance is actually divine nearness, and though the weight can feel unbearable, it is evidence of the crown forming over your life, unseen yet undeniable. There is a hidden protection in your life that has often looked like loss. Opportunities for love and companionship have slipped through your fingers, not because you were undeserving, but because you were never meant to belong to those who could not see the depth of your spirit. To be unavailable to the wrong people is not a curse, but a covering. Every person you did not end up with was shielding you from a life that could have diluted your purpose, from attachments that would have drained you, from distractions that would have silenced your calling. What you thought was heartbreak was preservation in disguise. It has cost you nights of questioning, tears shed in silence, moments of doubt when you wondered if something was broken within you. Yet the truth is that your availability has been guarded by design. Destiny cannot afford to let you be tied to those who cannot carry your weight, to those who would not honor the calling stitched into your soul. There is a cost in being kept apart, for the human heart longs for closeness, but there is also a gift in that distance, one you will only see fully when the time of revelation comes. The wrong people are not always harmful in obvious ways. Some appear kind, some appear devoted, some appear aligned, but beneath the surface they do not carry the capacity to walk beside someone destined to lead. To join with them would mean lowering your voice, diminishing your light, folding your wings to make yourself small enough to fit their vision of you. And so the unseen hand closed the door, leaving you with the ache of absence, but the gift of freedom. You may feel the weight of what you missed, the relationships that never blossomed, the opportunities that dissolved, but hidden beneath it all is the truth that your spirit was preserved for a bond that will not diminish you, but multiply your strength. What seems like delay is actually strategy. What feels like emptiness is the clearing of space for something far greater. But what if the very people you thought you lost were never losses at all, but lessons, stepping stones that prepared your heart for a connection you cannot yet imagine, one that will only reveal itself when your leadership stands fully in the light? There is a crown that rests over your life, unseen by the eyes of many, yet undeniable in the spirit. It is not made of gold or jewels, but of responsibility, vision, and divine authority. To carry such a crown is to feel the weight of expectations you never asked for, the pull of a destiny you cannot ignore, and the separation that marks you as different. Yeshua understood this weight, for his crown was not placed upon his head in glory, but in suffering first. Before he was revealed as king, he was rejected, misunderstood, and set apart. The crown always comes before the recognition, and the chosen always feel its pressure long before the world ever sees it. Your solitude has not been random. It has been the refining fire that strengthens your neck to hold the crown. Every closed door, every failed attempt at belonging, every lonely night has been shaping you into one who can stand under the gravity of leadership without crumbling. A crown is not a decoration. It is a symbol of rulership, and rulership demands a life that cannot be swayed by distraction or diluted by shallow attachments. That is why you have been preserved, why your heart has been guarded from unions that would have weakened your destiny. The presence of this crown explains why the ordinary has never satisfied you. While others can live comfortably in patterns that hold no weight, you feel restless until you align with the higher call upon your life. The ache you carry is not emptiness, but the pull of destiny, the crown pressing closer, reminding you that your path is not the same as theirs. This is why solitude has followed you, why isolation has been your companion, why unseen hands have pulled you back from places where you thought you could finally rest. And yet, though the crown is heavy, it has not crushed you. It has shaped you into someone whose spirit can endure storms, whose vision can pierce through illusion, whose voice can one day carry the authority of truth. There are bonds you tried to form that never held, connections that seemed promising but dissolved as if pulled apart by invisible hands. At the time, it felt like loss, yet what you did not see was the shield that had been raised over your life. Every time someone's intentions were not pure, every time someone sought to tie themselves to you for reasons that did not honor who you are, that shield intervened. It was not rejection, but protection, a safeguard placed between your heart and those who could not carry the weight of your destiny. This shield has often felt like isolation, as though you were being pushed away from the very closeness you longed for. But in reality, it was love working in silence, ensuring that your spirit would not be drained by people who were never meant to journey with you. What you thought was unfair was mercy in disguise, because destiny cannot afford for you to be tied to hands that would hold you back or voices that would drown out your own. The shield has also been timing itself with precision. There were moments when you thought you had finally found alignment, only for the connection to crumble. You may have wept, you may have questioned, you may have wondered if you were cursed. Yet behind every collapse was the same truth. The shield was active, pulling you away from what would not serve the future written for you. It does not mean you will walk alone forever. It means the path has been cleared for what will truly match the depth of your calling. Even now, that shield hovers around you, unseen yet unbreakable. It is the reason some people are drawn to you but cannot stay. The reason your spirit discerns unease even when appearances seem perfect. The reason doors close when you are tempted to force them open. What protects you may also frustrate you, but it has never failed you. There are times in your life when the very things you prayed for seemed to vanish, when the people you thought you needed most slipped away, when opportunities you begged for dissolved right before your eyes. In those moments, it felt cruel, as though heaven was deaf to your cries. Yet, when you look closer, you begin to see that what was taken was never meant to remain. Yeshua once said, "Every branch that does not bear fruit is cut away." And though his words spoke of vines, they echo through your own story. What you thought was necessary was pruned so that your life could bear fruit you could not yet see. It is a difficult truth to accept, for the human heart clings tightly to comfort, to familiarity, to people who feel like anchors in the storm. But not every anchor is safe. Some weigh you down in waters you were never meant to drown in. Yeshua understood that release is sometimes the most powerful act of love, for holding on to what is not aligned only prolongs pain. In your life, what was removed was not punishment, but preparation. When doors closed and people left, you thought you were being stripped bare. In reality, you were being cleared for what was greater. The hands you reached for would have kept you small. The voices you leaned on would have blurred your clarity. The paths you wanted to force open would have led you astray. What you needed was not what you thought. And so Yeshua removed what your spirit could not release on its own. Looking back, you can trace the pattern. Every time you lost what seemed irreplaceable, you eventually discovered that your spirit grew stronger, your vision sharper, your resilience deeper. Every removal was a reshaping, every pruning an act of mercy. You may not have understood it in the moment, but you were being aligned for something beyond your sight. There is a discipline that forms in you when you walk alone, a sharpening that cannot be taught in the noise of companionship. The silence becomes both your teacher and your mirror, showing you who you are when no one else's voice can drown out your own. To walk alone with the divine is to step into a school where lessons are written not in books, but in moments of stillness, where strength is built not by applause, but by endurance, where faith is tested in the absence of witnesses. This is the hidden training ground of leaders, the place where unseen foundations are laid. In the quiet, your dependence shifts. You learn to rely on whispers from above instead of approval from those around you. You begin to see how every unanswered prayer, every night of solitude, every season of waiting was cultivating resilience. Walking with the divine is not an easy discipline, because it requires surrendering the illusion of control. It demands that you trust a path you cannot see and lean on a presence you cannot touch. And yet, in that surrender, your spirit grows into something unshakable. The discipline of solitude creates clarity. When there is no crowd to imitate, no constant companionship to lean upon, you are forced to look inward and upward. The divine becomes not an idea, but your daily bread, your constant breath, the unseen companion who has walked beside you even when your heart was breaking. Every step taken alone has been a step that deepened your awareness of this presence, shaping you into one who can carry leadership without being broken by it. Though the world often glorifies togetherness, the chosen ones of history have always been trained in the wilderness. They have known what it means to walk alone, to feel the weight of silence, and to discover within it a companionship stronger than any earthly bond. That is the discipline you are being shaped by now. There is a time hidden within the rhythm of destiny, when what has been concealed must finally be brought into the light. The years of solitude, the unanswered questions, the endless nights of wondering why your path was different, have all been shaping you for this unveiling. Leadership is not given to those who chase it, but to those who are prepared by fire, silence, and endurance. You have carried the invisible crown, borne the unseen weight, endured the pruning of relationships, and walked through wilderness seasons that others would not survive. All of it has been leading to the moment when your life is no longer hidden, but revealed for what it truly is. The coming season will not look like the seasons you have known, where doors once closed, new ones will open, where voices once silenced you. New voices will seek your guidance. You will begin to see why your steps had to be so different, why you were set apart, why solitude clung to you like a shadow. What felt like delay was alignment. What felt like rejection was preparation. What felt like silence was the whisper of destiny, waiting for the appointed hour. Leadership does not arrive in a flash of glory, but in a steady unveiling, as though the veil that covered you begins to lift piece by piece. The world will not recognize you as the one who was always overlooked, but as the one who carries a voice forged in silence and a vision tested in fire. And though you have longed for this moment, it will feel both heavy and holy, for it comes not with ease, but with responsibility. The coming season is not simply about your rise, but about the lives tethered to your voice, the ones who will find their path through the clarity you carry. You were kept single, set apart, refined in solitude not for yourself alone, but for those who will follow the trail your leadership sets.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.